Can you help with painting the last sign?
Nah, I was about to do something important.
It's for the demonstration.
What's this then?
A book that's not yet finished. My great-grandmother started writing it.
International Women's Day? She was a cool one. Listen. The year is 1909.
1909. Finally, I am in the USA. There is a broad movement underway here for women's rights, workers' rights, and social justice. In the Socialist Party, the women suggest a national day of protest, the last day of February, to support women's rights
women's
to vote.
right to vote. The women weren't allowed to vote?
No, not then.
What?
Keep reading.
1 year later, at the
Women's Congress in Denmark in 1910, within the so-called Second International, the International Socialist Organization, the German women's rights fighter Clara Zetkin suggests, in the same way as the 1st of May, I suggest that the International Women's Day shall be celebrated. In Russia, the first Women's Day is marked as part of an ongoing protest against impending war. The war, World War I, starts anyway. 4 years later, there is no food, and the Russians are starving. Now, the women here are on strike against the cruelties of war. The Russian ruler, the Tsar, sends soldiers to stop the uprising. But the soldiers turn against him. This is part of the beginning of a revolution that later leads to the Tsar being overthrown.
The Russian Revolution. But really, how old did your great-grandmother get?
No, my grandmother took over the writing.
After the revolution, a regime is installed that includes giving women the right to vote. At least something started happening.
Yes, and look what happened after the Second World War.
The United Nations, the UN,
formed in 1945 as an organisation for international peace and security. And in 1975, it celebrates International Women's Year. At the same time, the first World Conference on Women is held in Mexico. 133 countries are present, and 113 of those are represented by women. 2 years later, the UN adopts a resolution that the membership countries in particular shall acknowledge. A day for women's rights and international peace. From the end of the 1970s, Women's Day is no longer linked to any specific political ideology. Rather, it is a universal day for women's issues. In 1980, the UN declares March the 8th as International Women's Day. In a good deal of countries, International Women's Day is a national holiday.
Here it ends. There's no more written. It's empty.
She stopped writing right after that.
But didn't somebody else take over?
Yes, I'm writing. Celebrating isn't enough. To achieve gender equality, you have to do something to change.
What's being done?
A lot, in fact. In 2015, the UN held a summit. The world's state and government leaders adopted Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. It contains 17 global goals that are to be reached by the year 2030. One of them, number 5, states, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. It is the individual member states that have the utmost responsibility to their citizens to implement Agenda 2030. And the state, that is me.
And it's me.
That is all of us. Society is far from equal. Gender equality is achieved when women and men, girls
and boys
have the same rights, conditions and opportunities,
and
power to shape their own lives. to contribute to society's development.